Before we get to your scheduled video, please remember that likes and comments tell YouTube to promote our work to other people, and subscribing to the channel tells you when something new drops. You can also head to the link tree in the description to peruse my books, join us on Discord, or support us on Patreon. You can get episodes of Journey of Wrestling and Violent Profiles early, as well as a load of other treats. Even just $1 a month earns you a name drop for being cool. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Greetings and salutations, fellow limited edition McDonald's figurines. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by The Boy.
Hey.
This is the two... You know, we could have done like a spooky vampire opening.
Nah.
No?
That doesn't fit the vibe of this show. Normal opening, maybe with spooky vampire voice, but very mundane. Fits the vibe of this show.
Okay.
Greetings, it is I, the boy. Ancient, unknowable creature of horror.
Dark tidings to you, the boy! That's the only other one I can do.
There we go.
Hi. You know who's cool? Rob, Passion Killer 711, Harmony, Destrucity, KTL. Am I forgetting somebody?
A guy from Ohio!
Other than him, I meant. I don't think so. It's 5, right? We're at 5?
I believe so.
My brain is, I haven't been getting a lot of sleep lately. Well, the last couple of days I have, but it takes a while to fix itself. A guy from Ohio, speaking of which, subscribing at the $15 tier, which is how you can tell us what to podcast on. Now.
Within reasonable limits.
Yeah.
Terms and conditions may apply.
Yeah, I'll eventually add some more tiers. I think this is within the $15 tier. I think 6 hours or less is a fine thing to ask us to podcast on for the price of $15. And we are only speaking this episode about the first season of What We Do in the Shadows. Unless a guy from Ohio changes his mind, we'll be covering all of the seasons as we have time and energy. At least one a month. I have never seen the film.
I have.
But I've been wanting to watch both the film and the show for years now. What a fantastic excuse to finally get around to it. You can join the ranks of Who's Cool even if you don't have $15. It only costs you $1. $1 a month. That's a fifth of the price of a Starbucks coffee. That is it's half of the price of a McDonald's chicken sandwich. And it really helps me out, and it endears me to you.
And it makes you cool, most importantly.
If you're my enemy and you give me $1, I guess I like you a little bit now.
Which is kind of how it works regular, anyway.
Yeah, this just streamlines the process.
So, I like that you haven't seen the film. We intended originally for you to go see it, but find it somewhere before you watch the series.
It was only available for rent, and I know it's stupid, but I pay for enough streaming services. Well, my streaming unit pays for enough streaming services.
We acquire the usage of enough streaming services.
That it feels stupid to rent a movie. Now, we've done it before, especially for podcasts we're asked to watch, but that's because we're getting paid to. I was not getting paid to watch the movie, so I will watch it at some point when it becomes available to me. Yeah, do you have any preamble?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Oh, my bad.
I like that you haven't seen it and I have, because it gives us different perspectives on the show.
As I understand, it's a completely different cast.
Entirely different, barring, but entirely different for most of the series. But it's the vibe is slightly different, which I think is interesting.
Okay. You know, I will say this show did not follow the vibe I was expecting. I was expecting something closer to Letterkenny, where, there's kind of a plot, but it's more like a hook to hang the meat of a series of bits around. Mm-hmm. But this is a little bit more of a sitcom. It's a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be.
The original movie was like a mockumentary, and it was a little self-contained story. It had a story arc. This television series is very much like that. But whereas the movie didn't really give me this vibe, it was a similar format of thing that had a very different vibe. The show is very much giving the vibe of The Office with vampires.
Except that The Office is a terrible show made entirely out of cringe humor and shitty characters that I hate.
Well, that's a real hot take on The Office. Everyone get to your comment sections, tell him how he's wrong. That's engagement. Do it.
Yeah, go for it. I wear my loathing like armor. So many people, like, okay, this is a problem I have. It's a problem I've had for years. I do a lot to, protect myself from it. The more you hype something for me, unless it meets that hype, I am going to be in equal measure disappointed. Hype backlash is a common thing. I just happen to suffer from it pretty severely. So everyone in the world, people crawling out of sewer drains to tell me to watch The Office, it's the best thing on television. Pam and Guy are so in love and it's good. And then I watched it and I hated it. It made me uncomfortable, made me want to leave the room. I was the only one in the room. I was alone watching The Office.
And this show has a lot more of that style of humor than the original movie did. The humor wherein the joke is the awkwardness of banal everyday interactions. But in this case, it's given a heightening in that it's the awkwardness of banal everyday interactions is the source of the humor, but vampires are doing it, so it counts as funny.
I think it's got a lot of absurdist tendencies in that way. It's one of those things where it's casting kind of a lens on the weird shit we do. Which maybe The Office was going for, but it wasn't a very nice lens. I don't...
Well, that's the other part, is that this show isn't mean.
Yeah, like a lot of the characters in The Office are very mean.
Whereas this show, the characters are bad people.
Yeah, they're murderers.
But they're not mean.
They're jaunty murderers.
Yeah, and that makes all the difference in the world. Now, I like this show quite a bit, but its vibe is slightly different. It's much more of a sitcom than the original movie was.
Do we do a spoiler-free review?
I don't know, there's a lot to spoil, really.
Well, the characters die.
That's true, but, there are vampires here. You kind of should have expected that going in.
I don't know, maybe this is a safe space.
No. But, a spoiler-free review, if you liked the movie, watch it. It is a slightly different vibe, but you'll probably still enjoy it, maybe not as much. What about if you didn't watch the movie?
It's... I don't think I would keep watching this if I wasn't paid to, but I had a very nice time. And I mean, just at that line. Now, I say this as somebody who has a hard time just sitting down watching TV. A lot of sitcom stuff doesn't, blow me away like it used to. I used to love sitcoms. And that's like a changing of the times thing, because I can watch old sitcoms and the humor is...
to be accurate, you still love sitcoms from a long time ago.
Right. The cutoff was around the... about halfway through Big Bang Theory, to give you timeline-wise. Literally, I mean chronologically halfway through the show. All other shows kind of changed a little bit. I watched a couple episodes of New Girl. That was fine. But I haven't really liked many sitcoms since. This is an exception. I enjoyed it, but I don't know that I would, binge watch it or something. It's not really my vibe, my activity. So, in that sense, that's a pretty glowing recommendation for me, guy who doesn't watch sitcoms anymore.
Yeah, if it was good enough to pass over your bar.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to watching the next season. I
Same.
don't think I would if it wasn't for the show, but
Well, I mean, for me, they actually did get me invested in at least one of the characters.
I guess I kind of... Honestly, that's probably my least favorite part of the show, is the narrative.
Ongoing storylines?
I don't hate it, I don't mean to say that I was surprised it's there and it makes me mad. It's just sort of... I'd rather watch the Tumblr version of this, or the TikTok version.
You'd rather watch clips?
The bits.
This would, barring the structure of the podcast, be a Parks and Recreation style engagement.
Sure, and I have caught a couple of them, and that's what I really enjoyed about the show, and made me interested in watching in the first place.
Because Parks and Recreation also has a lot of ongoing storylines and character development, but it is better consumed in GIF or
I tried
TikTok
to watch
format.
Parks and Rec. It is just
Same.
I tried to watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
But that show's good. We're not going to fight about that right now.
I'm not arguing about its quality. You're welcome to enjoy it. That's not my point. Me, person who doesn't care for sitcoms that are modern, didn't care for it. Ooh, what a surprise.
But this show, the show we're actually talking about.
Yeah.
You said you didn't like the storylines as much as the bits. So, what do you like about the bits? What part of the comedy really sings?
These actors are great. I think that's the biggest part. The four principal actors, five. Like, I could take or leave Guillermo. I don't hate him or anything, but like, his character is the most cringy of them, like the most cringe humor member of the cast. And I don't know, he's kind of a whoopee, and like you get a little bit of the ironic whoopee, but that's not entertainment for me. That detracts from my overall enjoyment of the show instead of adding to it. Now, that's nothing to say for the actor himself or, some of the characters' arcs. Again, it's not like I hate him or anything, but like if I'm mathematically weighing it, charting the things that I liked and didn't like for the purpose of a at least 30-minute internet talk show, I would say that he is a detractor overall.
Interesting.
So yeah, I really like the other four principal characters, that being Laszlo, Nandor, Nadja, and Colin Robinson. I didn't think I was going to like him at first, but he's just so perfect.
I also didn't think I was going to like Colin Robinson because he's such a departure from the original premise.
Yeah.
His existence is a departure from the original premise and involves an entirely different sort of kind of joke that I don't find as funny.
You know what? Maybe better than Letterkenny as to what I was expecting. Portlandia might be a better thing to say my expectations were. Because while that does have like through lines, they are just a series of skits.
Whereas, like if it had been Portlandia, I would have been much aggrieved because I liked the movie and I hate Portlandia. So
Portlandia is one of the few modern TV shows that isn't a Marvel show or a Star Wars that I've sat down and just munched the hell out of. I really enjoyed that. There were some bad skits, don't get me wrong, but overall I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, I feel like the actors and their commitment to their silly accents and the consistency of each character are what really helps uplift everything. I mean, it could have been a mediocre comedy that got 2 seasons, but instead it's going for 5 now, probably 6.
It's a pretty good comedy that got 5 seasons.
Yeah, and I think at least for the first season, the consistency and efficacy of the principal characters helps a lot with that.
Yeah, they're definitely portrayed very consistently. They have a specific character that's easily quantifiable into, like, maybe 4 or 5 words at maximum. In one case, literally 2. And
What is that case?
pervert vampire.
Oh, okay.
That's his character trope.
Yeah, and he does it well.
But so much so that I literally had trouble remembering their names because I codified them so quickly.
It's the Ninja Turtles effect. Like, they did such a good job with the core concept, the trope, if you will, that you nailed it. All right, cool. Moving on.
Yeah, pervert vampire. I got it. I don't need anything else. Moving on.
And Nandor's, out of touch, old-fashioned.
Nandor is like a middle manager vampire, where he's got like he wants to be important and in charge, but he's kind of a spineless douche about it. Actually, one of the things I wanted to say about the show is I find these characters very humorous. They're amusing to watch. Their exploits are amusing to watch. As people, I hate all of them. They're terrible people.
Oh, I would not want to hang out with them. No.
They're
really bad.
Just really awful dickheads who make the lives of the people around them worse, including each other.
The best among them is probably Nadja, but like this is the least rotten egg in my fridge.
And even still, there's what she does to poor Jeff.
Some some would say he deserved it.
By contrast, my favorite character is Guillermo. Just because put upon service employee who's overlooked by and shitted upon by his boss is a very relatable character, whereas the rest of these people are aloof, rich, ancient dickbags.
And maybe he's the most office-like character among them, and that's why I don't really care for him that much.
No, that's Colin Robinson. Colin Robinson is the most office-like character by like a country mile.
He might be the most Office Space-like character as Guillermo.
But yeah, it's just his emotional existence is very understandable. Except the part where he keeps taking it, and the big spoiler near the end of the second season.
Second season?
Or near the end of the first season, excuse me.
I'm not there yet.
I really like, because even though it's a sitcom and obviously they're not going to go here, I like that it teases the possibility that he might not just bend over and eat shit forever, and I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah, I might like the character more if there's some growth there. If this first season was just leading into a blossoming, I'd be cool with that. I can definitely see myself going like, yeah, he's doing his thing. Proud of him. While the rest of them just act like weird idiots.
And don't get me wrong, the point is that they're rich, aloof, old dickbags. Like, that is the joke. And it's a funny joke, but it makes them terrible people who I don't want to hang out with unless they're being funny.
And it's interesting that you would that you observe that. That's part of the takeaway that you have it all. I didn't even really consider whether I'd want to hang out with these guys until you mentioned it, and I stopped them. And God, they're all terrible.
Well, that's the thing, is if I'm watching like a sitcom, part of the appeal of a sitcom is the people. Because normally the stakes are pretty low, and here, even though, people are immolated by the sun, and there are vampires who kill and eat people every episode, the stakes are still sort of emotionally pretty low. It's ultimately just like some roommates who have personal beef with each other on the level of emotional stakes of, hey, you guys are leaving leftovers in the fridge too long. Can we clean that up? Only it's people they've been meaning to eat. That's the joke. That's why the joke is funny, is it's this incredibly banal thing, but contrasted with the over-the-top horror of it being vampires. So the people themselves, the people in the situation, need to be entertaining in some way. Either funny, compelling, or good to hang around. A great example is Friends. The Friends are all pretty funny, but they are also, barring some later seasons, also people you'd pretty much be okay with hanging around. They're okay people.
Right.
They're not dickheads.
And to that point, I would say that I had that problem with How I Met Your Mother. We watched the entirety of the show, and then a friend of ours restarted it at the time, and we were watching it again, and I realized these characters are terrible, especially the main character. I can't watch this.
Yeah, they're all bad people. That's not true. Marshall did nothing wrong.
Yeah, Lily's a low sinner as well, but like Ted, the central character, he's cringe as hell,
he's
and not
a very toxic person.
Yeah, and unaware of it.
And the problem is, unlike these characters, not funny enough to get away with it.
Sure.
Like Barney in How I Met Your Mother is maybe the worst man. He's like a terrible person, but he's funnier than Ted, so he gets away with it. The characters in this show, Nandor the Relentless, Laszlo, I genuinely have trouble not calling him pervert vampire, and Nadja, they're awful. They're all objectively, intentionally awful. That's the joke.
This is so... maybe I be candid for a moment.
Absolutely.
This is maybe one of my favorite podcasts of the year, because the fact that we both are approaching and taking away things that are so different from the same media. It's been a long time since we've had that kind of dynamic and not just been disagreeing about the quality of it. We both enjoyed this program overall.
Yeah.
And have such a different perspective.
It's I like that.
Ironically, you know, all the things you were talking about, and those are probably important, they're probably on the subconscious level, but if I'm being real, the dumb vampire hijinks are the things that really thrill me in the show. And the stupid side jokes and the weird supernatural crap and just the silly situations they get into. The cartoonishness, if you will. I'm not too proud to admit I prefer cartoons. But that's the stuff that makes me laugh and gets me engaged with the program. Whereas, like, the roommate joke, the leftovers joke, it was like, okay. But
whereas that's a very funny joke.
But,
that's when well executed.
They kept standing on the ceremony of, like, you know, throughout the whole season of, okay, we have to do this by the ritual. And
yes, exactly.
It was so stupid and hilarious. It's dumb vampire stuff. I know dumb vampire stuff, and that is stupid and hilarious.
We must announce this in the fancy room.
Yeah. Or when the Count showed up, and is that what he was? The Count?
The Baron.
The Baron. My bad. Which I did like the Baron because Doug Jones getting to play a character and like actually use his voice and all that, it was really exciting for me.
The Baron was I like the Baron as a bit. He is an excellent bit. Every part of that bit, all the twists and turns it takes, all really, really funny.
He is the best part of The Hangover.
Yes, he is. That's a great way to put that.
Yeah, and I hate The Hangover as a movie, but like his whole arc is like the reason it worked. He's the best part of Weekend at Bernie's. He's this problem guest that you have to deal with. I really found a lot of the situations revolving around him very funny.
It's a funny dynamic. It's and as you put, incredibly well acted. I didn't find any of the performances here to be lacking in any way. I believed all these people, even the hyper ridiculous ones. I believed them. They were there.
The college girl, I liked as well.
Yeah.
She felt very what's the word I'm looking for? Genuine. Very true to what that kind of character would be. I'm not finding her on here, and this is not separated for spoilers, so I'm not going to look too hard. But you know who I'm talking about.
There's a side character who's introduced fairly early on in the series as one of the many virgins the vampires like to eat because virgins are the most delicious. Nadja, basically, like, gets a little girl crush on her, not in a romantic sense, in more of a, no, this is unfair. I know what it's like to be shitted upon by dudes. I will fix this. I will make you a vampire.
Nadja I like because she has no concept of the consequences of her actions.
Nadja is a cat.
Yes. She will play with something until she's bored of it and then move on. And did it die? Well, I think that's very funny. It appeals to me quite a bit.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, like, not that I'm like that. Well, I mean, with actual like games and stuff, not people. But yeah, I don't know. It feels very.
I just meant it fits the vibe of things you like and find.
Sure,
amazing.
I was clarifying for the audience. I knew what you meant. I wanted to make sure they knew what you meant. He uses people? I'm not giving him a Patreon $1. She reminds me of an Anne Rice vampire, a send-up of an Anne Rice vampire, specifically.
The intense ennui,
the brooding lust, the actual cats making noises,
incredible need for novelty.
Yes.
And being sort of tired of eternity and wanting to mix things up. Whereas Nandor just comes across as like a granddad.
He's like your Dracula.
He's not Dracula. Dracula has swag. This is the swag. This is the most swagless vampire in the history of vampiredom.
He's like, what if Dracula wasn't the big bad? He's a Dracula.
He's your Vlad Tepes type.
Yeah.
But like, spineless.
I have no idea what's going on with Laszlo.
Laszlo is a pervert.
Right.
That's his thing. He's a pervert. He's pervert vampire.
I'm not 100 on like if he's inspired by anything in particular, but he's doing an amazing job. So, please carry on.
Trying to think if there's anything else overarching I wanted to talk about before the big thing at the end, which is so fun. I don't think so.
I did want to mention I really liked the episode with the council.
That's the big thing at the end that I was talking about.
I figured you meant the spoiler.
No. That's a minor thing that'll probably come up more in the second season. We can talk about it then.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to go anywhere. It's just not. They're not going to change the main characters of the show. That's not happening. But the big vampire council sequence was so fun.
The whole episode I really liked. And I like Kristen Shaw a lot, so it was cool to see her show up. Just adding another quality actor to the overall series of quality actors that they have on this program.
Yeah, I entirely agree. But the Vampire Council is a fun sort of, I guess, not even Easter egg, just like cameo palooza.
Yeah.
Where they get a bunch of decently famous actors or people who have been iconic vampires in cinema to show up and be vampires, including 2 of the leads from the original movie, to be important vampires in this vampire council, right? And it's a fun series of jokes. There's no need to go through them line by line. They're funnier if you experience them. But I will special shout out the Skype joke was perfectly done.
Yeah, especially in the time this came out.
And especially given who it was.
Yes.
The Skype joke was
well
perfectly
executed.
done, yeah.
I to summarize again, I am looking forward to watching more of this. I don't know that I would. I mean, I drag my heels on it, Honestly, before we started this, I've got a million YouTube tabs open. And you asked me, why do you have all these tabs open? Why are you not just using your watch later list? And I explained that the tabs are so that I watch them in a timely fashion. If I put it on the watch later list, it will stay there until...
It's a Netflix queue now.
Yeah.
That's maybe to watch this at some point, as you put, before the heat death of the universe.
It's out of sight, out of mind. And if it wasn't a subject that was requested by our lovely, cool patron, a guy from Ohio... I would put this in my watch later list and get to it when I got to it. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. I'm looking forward to talking about more of it.
I'm genuinely looking forward to season 2. I liked the storylines. I liked sort of the through line with them. And the acknowledgement of continuity in this otherwise very silly premise.
I did like every time they came back. Like after Jeff left the first time, I kind of figured that was going to be the end of him when he wasn't in literally the next episode. I figured, bit over, we're moving on. But then he shows up again later, and it's like, oh, okay, all right, well, hey, we'll see where that winds up.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And the ultimate punchline on the Jeff joke is so good. But ultimately, I think you laid out that if this were not for the Patreon rewards, you probably wouldn't watch season 2. At least not anytime soon.
Not in a timely fashion. No.
I probably would. At the very least, start it. This is exactly the kind of content that as like a show that has 5 seasons, I get about halfway through to season 3, get tired of it, and throw it away. This is exactly that kind of content, and I'm happy to have it in my life. It was an excellent, positive experience. I'm so amused that we had such a different experience with it.
Yeah, because we're just usually so similar.
Well, we've had a long time of friendship, and we ended up being pretty similar in most respects in terms of media consumption, and we've been consuming basically the same media for so long that it's fun to see, and it's interesting that we can't know how much of this is just differences in our in how we absorb media, and how much of this is just the fact that you haven't seen the movie and I have, and that causing a difference in how we take the next media in.
I don't know that how much of that is an impact. I mean, it would have changed my expectations, certainly.
And maybe that's all it is. Maybe if I didn't have those expectations, I would have had a reaction closer to what you have.
Maybe. I think it's also just a difference in what we care about in comedy. Because while you have come around a little bit over the years, I vastly prefer absurdism. As you said, you hated Portlandia, whereas I ate it up because it was just absurdist crap after absurdist crap.
Whereas for me, it's a skill check, and it's a really high one. If it's not very funny, it is infinity cringe. And it's not like a sliding scale, it's an on-off. If you do absurdist humor and you are not very funny, it becomes infinitely cringe instantly and I have to go.
I think there's a point past which, like, if it's not funny, it does have that atomic level of, and I mean literal cringe here, not just not cool.
When I say cringe, I mean the physical reaction of where your body pulls in on itself.
Same.
And it hurts.
But for me, a lot of absurdist stuff is kind of like fart jokes are for most folk. Even just the dumbest that goes on.
It's
really
a little
long.
funny at least.
Yeah, it's at least a little funny.
Whereas for me, if it's not very good, it is basically the tier of putting a banana on your head and going, "Look, I've got a banana on my head. Isn't that silly?" That's the reaction I have, the one you just had, from most absurdist humor. I want you to know he's a little amused.
He's a little bit.
he's a little amused.
I'm open to see where this banana bit goes. But I do want to say again, and I do want to clarify, not just to be like, please continue giving us money, a guy from Ohio, but genuinely, I appreciate the opportunity because
I love the opportunity to absorb shit I would not have otherwise absorbed.
Or would have taken forever to get around to absorbing. Not only because of this interesting dynamic between you and I that we've uncovered in reviewing this, but also in that it gives me impetus to watch a thing. Like, and it's the same situation with like the Marvel series and whatnot. I don't know if I would have caught them all by now if we didn't podcast about
I know
it.
full well I would not have watched some of those.
Yeah, but it's nice to be driven to relax. If it is done under the pretense of work.
And Patreon aside, that's part of the reason we do the podcast, is it drives us to absorb stuff we would not have otherwise done because we gotta find stuff to talk to you guys about.
And if we don't talk to you guys, I put a hat on a hat, didn't I?
Yep.